Imagine deciding you wanted to learn how to play the piano. You walk into a music store and someone hands you an advanced, points to the sheet music, and then walks away, right? What? No, no explanation, no lessons, no encouragement, no practice, no understanding of rhythm or understanding of timing, no understanding of technique. And then when you struggle, people say to you, maybe the piano just wasn't for you. That would sound ridiculous. Yet that's exactly how millions of people are introduced to fasting. They're told just stop eating. Sometimes they're even told go for 72 hours, or if you're not fasting for 3 days, you're not really getting the benefits. And then the headaches begin, and the cravings, and the fatigue, and the irritability, and the doubt. And eventually they decide, I guess my body just can't fast. But what if that's not true? What if your body isn't failing at all? What if it's actually doing exactly what human biology predicts it would do? Today, I want to change the way you think about fasting, not by making it sound easier than it is, because there are moments when fasting really is challenging, but by helping you understand that your body is doing exactly what it's supposed to in those moments. Because something incredible happens when understanding replaces fear. The symptoms that once made you quit become signals that help you to learn. The uncertainty that once made you anxious can become confidence. And instead of wondering whether your body is broken, you begin recognizing that your body has been waiting for this opportunity all along. This isn't going to be a video filled with hype. I'm not here to promise miracles, and I'm not here to tell you that fasting cures every disease. The science simply doesn't support those kinds of claims. Instead, we're going to talk about what researchers have learned and what clinicians are actually saying, what still needs more research, and how you can apply that information safely and realistically to your own life. Now, whether you've never completed your first 12-hour fast or you've been practicing intermittent fasting for years, my hope is that by the end of today's episode, you're going to understand your body better than you ever have before. Because when you understand your body, you can stop fighting it. And that's often when real change is going to be able to begin. So, for part one, let's discuss why we want to stop trying to win our first fast. I think one of the biggest reasons that people fail at fasting, it actually begins before they ever skip their first meal. It begins with their expectations. We live in a culture that celebrates dramatic transformations. 30-day challenges and 72-hour fasts or 5-day fasts, 7-day fasts, extreme before and after pictures. And the algorithm loves dramatic stories, but your body, yeah, not so much. It doesn't care about the algorithm, and your body adapts through consistency. One of the greatest misconceptions I see is the belief that longer automatically means better. So if someone watches a video online, reads a comment from someone who completed a 4-day fast, or hears about a celebrity who fasted for an entire week, and suddenly they feel like a 16-hour fast isn't enough, or they begin comparing their chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 50. Imagine walking into a gym for the very first time. You've never lifted weights, you've never trained, and you've never even developed a consistent exercise routine. And then you look across the room and compare yourself to someone who's been strength training for 15 years. Would you expect yourself to lift what they lift? Of course not. And it's not because you're weak, it's because you're new. Fitness doesn't develop in one workout. It develops through repeated adaptation. Fasting works exactly the same way. Your metabolism is incredibly adaptable. It responds to the environment that you repeatedly create. So if you've spent years eating every 2 or 3 hours, constantly supplying your body with quick energy, your body becomes very efficient at using that pattern. There's nothing mysterious about it. It's simply adapting to what you've consistently asked it to do. And then one day, you decide to skip breakfast. Suddenly, your brain interprets every sensation as evidence that something is wrong. I feel hungry. I feel tired. I think I'm doing damage. But in many cases, your body is not being damaged. It's not failing the fast. It's learning. Think about learning another language. The first conversations are awkward. You pause, you search for words, you make mistakes. You don't quit because something is impossible, and you understand that you're developing a new skill. Metabolic flexibility works in a similar way. Researchers use that phrase, metabolic flexibility, to describe the body's ability to efficiently switch between different fuel sources depending on what's available. So when food is abundant, your body uses nutrients from your meals. But when food isn't immediately available, a metabolically flexible body gradually shifts toward using stored energy. Now, that ability is something humans have relied on throughout history. Our ancestors didn't eat because the clock said noon. They ate when food was available. And human physiology evolved in a world where periods of eating and periods without food naturally alternated. Today, though, many of us rarely experience those natural pauses. We wake up, we eat breakfast, snack mid morning, have lunch, afternoon snack, dinner, dessert, evening snack. Some people are eating 15 or 16 hours every single day, and their digestive system never really gets much of a break. Their insulin rarely spends long returning to a baseline before another meal arrives. Now, that doesn't mean every meal or snack is harmful. It simply means that our modern eating patterns are very different from those under which human metabolism evolved. So, when someone begins fasting, they're not asking their body to perform magic. They're asking it to relearn or even remember something that it already knows how to do. And relearning, even if it is remembering, takes practice. One of my favorite things or favorite sayings is this: small things done consistently become big things over time. That applies to almost every area of health. If you've never fasted before, please hear this. You do not need to prove anything. You don't earn extra points for suffering. You don't become healthier because you forced yourself through a miserable 72-hour fast that leaves you afraid to ever fast again. Your goal isn't to impress strangers online. Your goal is to build a rhythm your body can maintain for years. If 12 hours feels challenging, wonderful. That's okay. That's good. That's your starting point. Stay there until it feels normal. Then maybe 13, then 14, then 15, then 16. Those may sound like small improvements, but your body experiences them as repeated opportunities to adapt. Every successful fast teaches your brain something important. I've done this before. I'm safe. I can trust my body. Confidence doesn't usually arrive before action. Confidence is often the reward for repeated success. This is one of the reasons I encourage people to stop measuring success only by the number of hours you fasted. Instead, ask yourself different questions. Ask, did I practice consistency this week? Or you could ask, did I listen to my body instead of trying to punish it? Did I make healthier choices when I did eat? Did I become just a little bit more aware of my hunger cues? Those victories matter because health isn't built in one extraordinary fast. It's built in hundreds of ordinary ones. The people who experience lasting change usually aren't the people chasing the most extreme protocol. They're the ones who quietly develop habits that become part of everyday life. And there's something It really is something that every one of us is capable of doing. Now, before we move on, if you're finding value in this episode, I'd love you to I'd love you to invite others, and I'd love to invite you to subscribe. It's not just because I'm trying to chase numbers, but because every episode of the Fasting Project builds on the last. My goal isn't just to help you complete one successful fast, it's to help you understand your body well enough to make healthier decisions for years to come. So if someone you care about has been curious about fasting but feels intimidated or confused, should consider sharing this video with them. Sometimes having a trusted friend learn alongside you makes all the difference. Now, let's talk about one of the most misunderstood parts of fasting. Why hunger isn't always what you think it is. Part 2. Let's talk about what I believe is one of the biggest breakthroughs a person can have while learning to fast. Like I said, you're probably not hungry. You're experiencing a hunger wave. Now, this has nothing to do with willpower. It has nothing to do with discipline. It has everything to do with understanding your body because most people have never actually experienced true physical hunger. Yeah, you heard me right. That statement surprises a lot of people. They'll say, Rebecca, I know what hunger feels like. I get hungry every single day. But what if what we've been calling hunger is often something else entirely? Let's explore that together. Your body loves patterns. And one of the amazing things about the human body is that it's constantly learning. It watches what you repeatedly do. Then it prepares you to do it again. If you wake up every morning and eat breakfast at 7, your body begins preparing for breakfast before you even take your first bite. The smell of food can trigger digestive enzymes, and thinking about food can increase saliva production. Your stomach begins getting hungry. Hormones begin shifting. Your digestive system anticipates what's coming. Your body isn't reacting, it's predicting. That's one of the remarkable things about human physiology. Your brain is always trying to stay one step ahead. Now imagine you've eaten lunch at exactly noon, we'll say, for the last 10 years, every single day. What do you think happens around 11:45? Your body begins preparing for lunch. Not because you're running out of energy, but because that's what usually happens next. Scientists have studied this phenomenon for decades, and one of the hormones involved is called ghrelin. You may have heard it referred to as the hunger hormone, but that nickname doesn't tell the whole story. Ghrelin doesn't simply mean you need food immediately. Instead, it acts like a messenger that says, hey, based on our usual routine, food normally arrives about now. That's a very important distinction because your body isn't necessarily saying you're in danger. It's saying this is what we've practiced. Hunger comes in waves. So here's something I wish every person knew before starting fasting. Hunger usually isn't a steady climb. It behaves much more like ocean waves. It rises and it peaks, and then it often fades. Have you ever been incredibly busy, like working on a project, playing with your kids or cleaning the house, talking with a friend, and suddenly you realize, wait a second, I forgot to eat lunch. How is that possible? If hunger were simply a fuel gauge, it shouldn't disappear, but that's exactly what many people experience because many hunger signals are temporary. Researchers have observed that ghrelin tends to rise around habitual meal times and then fall again, even if no food is eaten. In other words, your body can send a strong, it's usually time to eat signal that naturally fades if you don't immediately respond to it. Think about standing on the beach. A wave approaches and it looks so powerful. If you've never seen the ocean before, you might think this wave is going to continue getting bigger forever. But it doesn't. It reaches the shore and then it pulls back Another wave comes. Hunger often behaves the same way. The mistake that many people make is assuming the first wave will last all day. And so they panic. I can't do this. My body is starving. Something must be wrong. When in reality, many times, they're only 5 or 10 minutes away from feeling dramatically better. Now, I want to be careful here. There is a difference between temporary hunger signals and prolonged fasting that leads to genuine nutritional needs. This isn't about ignoring your body indefinitely. It's about learning to recognize the difference between habit and a true physical need. That awareness takes practice. We often eat because it's time, not because we need to. Here's a question that I'd encourage you to ask yourself. Sometime this week, when you reach for food, pause for a moment and then ask, what made me decide to eat? Was it physical hunger or was it the clock? Was it stress? Was it boredom? Was it because everyone else was eating? Was it because food was just sitting on the counter? Was it because a commercial came on? Or maybe simply drove past your favorite restaurant? Food is connected in so many parts of our lives: celebration, comfort, tradition, family, grief, reward, vacation, entertainment. None of those things make you weak, they make you human. But fasting gives us something incredibly powerful. It creates a pause, a space between the feeling and the response. So instead of automatically eating, we become curious. What am I actually feeling right now? That single question can change your relationship with food. Hunger isn't the enemy. One of the saddest things I see in our modern culture is how afraid we've become of feeling hungry. We've been taught that hunger is an emergency, that if we're hungry, something's wrong. But healthy hunger isn't your enemy. It's one of your body's normal communication systems. In fact, for many people, one of the healthiest experiences fasting provides is simply realizing that I can feel hungry and I'm okay. That realization is incredibly freeing because suddenly food is no longer controlling every decision. You begin really realizing that you have choices. You don't have to react immediately. You can think, you can pray, you can take a walk, you can drink some water, you can finish what you're doing and then decide intentionally. That shift from automatic reaction to intentional response is one of the greatest gifts fasting can offer. So let's discuss some practical ways to ride a hunger wave. What should you actually do when a hunger wave hits? I'll give you a few practical ideas that many people find helpful. First, just drink a large glass of water. Sometimes mild dehydration can amplify feelings that resemble hunger. So staying hydrated won't eliminate every craving, but it's a simple first step that's worth trying. Second, move your body. Not an intense workout. Simply stand up, walk outside, stretch, walk around your house. Movement changes your focus, and many people notice that hunger waves pass after they finish their walk. Third, keep your mind occupied. Our brains have limited attention, and if all we're doing is watching the clock, thinking about food and scrolling recipes or watching cooking videos, we're feeding our thoughts even if we're not feeding our bodies. Instead, read a chapter of a book, call a friend, work on your favorite hobby, or play with your kids. Spend 10 minutes organizing a drawer or give your brain something meaningful to do. Fourth, wait 20 minutes, not forever, just 20 minutes. Tell yourself, if I'm still feeling the same way in 20 minutes, I'll reassess. Many times you'll discover the wave has already passed. And finally, give yourself some grace. If today doesn't go the way you planned, you're not a failure. Every fast teaches you something. Maybe today teaches you that you need more protein at dinner. Maybe it teaches you stayed up too late. Maybe it teaches you that stress makes fasting harder. That's valuable information. Health isn't always about pretending every day is perfect. It's about paying attention, learning, and adjusting. and becoming a little bit wiser each time. Thanks for spending this 20 minutes with me, friend. I've got to take this little guy outside, so I'm going to stop for now. But join me again in episode 17 because we only made it partway through what I wanted to cover today. So I will see you soon, and you can find episode 17 right here in the corner where I'm going to put it. See you then.